This is the PXN V9 Gen 2. It's the updated model from the previous generation which had no force feedback, and unfortunately, years later, this one doesn't either. That's because it's targeted towards a younger audience, but they have added some unique features which definitely caught me by surprise. So today, I'm here to give you all of my thoughts on this entire bundle, going through the set of pedals, the steering wheel, H-pattern shifter, and the wheelbase itself, telling you about all the good, the not so good, and if I would ultimately recommend it. Sent to me by PXN for review, the V9 Gen 2 provides a lot in this package and currently retails on Amazon for around $190 in the United States. Before you take out your credit card though, there is lots to go over, starting with the pedals. Made almost entirely of plastic, this 3-pedal set uses Hall effect sensors and an interesting folding mechanism to bring in or out the heel rest. They also don't look too bad in design, with metallic pedal faces and different textures and finishes throughout its casing and heel rest. However, that's about the only good I've really found with them. Extremely little resistance is needed to push down any of the pedals, they can't be adjusted in any meaningful way, and how they're angled so far back makes pushing them all the way down harder than it should be. Although no hard mounting is needed since they're so light, there also isn't any ability to do so, and if that wasn't bad enough, my in-game performance when racing competitively with them was heavily impacted. Being so easy to push down, I found myself easily locking up on more than a few occasions, and precise modulation of my pedal inputs was nearly impossible. Heel-toe downshifting due to the angle at which these pedals are set was also uncomfortable and difficult to do. So coupling all of that along with the inability to make any adjustments, my experience with these pedals was ultimately very underwhelming. The only real upside of these pedals comes when comparing them to their competition. Whereas the Thrustmaster Ferrari 458 bundle, which also has no force feedback and is targeting the same market, only offers a full plastic 2-pedal set, these are technically better, albeit not by much. Moving on to the H-pattern shifter, it is roughly unchanged from the last generation and nearly identical to the one found on the PXN V99, with the main difference of it having a rubber boot rather than being a gated manual for a reason I don't really know. Fitted with a 6-speed mechanism and a reverse gear that is accessed by pressing it down and slotting it into the 6th gear slot, this shifter provides good versatility, and its higher gear button can also be useful for trucking sims. Hooking this up onto a desk is also easy with a versatile table clamp that did a good job holding it in place, and although the general plastic quality of the shifter was apparent and didn't give a high-end look or feel to it, it ultimately does do the job. On track, misshifts were common due to the close spacing and short throw, but in general, I was able to flow through the gears and at least have the sensation of driving a manual car. Now, one thing that I don't understand is why PXN chose a toy-like rubber boot for this shifter rather than fitting it with the same gated cover that is seen on the V99. To me, it almost seems unintuitive, as I'd imagine that producing two different but extremely similar models is more costly than it is useful. Another strange but noteworthy difference is that this shifter comes with a USB Type-C connection intended to be plugged into the back of the wheelbase only, as opposed to the other version which can be used independently or with the wheelbase. Now, considering that this shifter is only one part of the bundle and something that its competitors don't offer, it's hard to complain much about it. It's certainly not perfect, not anywhere close, but it ultimately does do the job, and it does come included. Now moving on to the heavily redesigned steering wheel, the PXN V9 Gen 2 adapts a trucking style wheel for a good reason I'll mention later. At 11 inches in diameter, it looks and feels of small size, but makes sense considering its target market. The quality here isn't anything to brag about. It's made nearly entirely of plastic but is wrapped in a thin layer of a rubbery material that provides some grip and a decent feel. Ergonomics are good with all buttons and paddle shifters at close reach, although none of those are impressive. The paddle shifters are made of a thin layer of plastic which easily flexes on its outer points, the D-pad has no sense of direction, and the buttons are very lifeless when pressing down. For some reason, all of those aforementioned flaws were less important for PXN, as having your throttle and brake inputs registered with an LED on the front of the wheel was a bigger concern. Seriously, I don't know why anyone would find this useful, although I guess it does look kinda cool. On track, this wheel does do the job. Despite its small size, it was comfortable to use, significant flex on the rim is seen but rarely felt in-game, and everything worked as intended. Now on that note, one of the big selling points of this product will be its plug-and-play functionality and console compatibility, as PXN claims it works on PC, Xbox One and Series X and S, and PlayStation 4. Now my experience using this on PC was largely flawless, as with no need to download any type of third-party software, the wheel was immediately recognized and it was good to go. This, PXN claims, will also be the case on the aforementioned consoles, but I unfortunately cannot confirm as I didn't try it on them. All that's left to talk about now is of course the wheelbase, and although it comes with no force feedback, there are still several important things to go over. Before that though, keep in mind that if you're unsure of what I mean by force feedback, you can check out this short video I made explaining exactly what that is and why it's important. Anyways, starting off, this wheel has a maximum rotation of 900 degrees, something that is fine for Formula or GT racing, but not ideal for rallying, drifting, trucking sims, etc. Now the only reason I mention this is because one of the target markets of this product are casual players of trucking sims who don't necessarily need a force feedback wheel and just want a cheap bundle to offer what they need. In this sense, the V9 Gen 2 with its trucking style wheel and H-pattern shifter with the higher gear mode seems like a decent choice. However, its maximum 900 degree rotation could be a huge deal breaker to many. Anyways, apart from that, and something that really caught me off guard with this wheel was its in-game vibrations. You see, in this wheel, PXN have fitted adaptive vibration, which gives some feedback as to what your car is doing. For example, no vibrations are felt when going in a straight line, but when turning, they start to kick in to provide at least some minimal sense of what your car is feeling. This system very much reminded me of Logitech TrueForce, and although it can't simulate anything close to what an actual force feedback wheel does, it's at least better than having no feeling whatsoever. Of course though, using this wheel to try to be competitive on track is difficult, and you'll be at a huge disadvantage in most racing series, apart from maybe some oval classes. This is because on track you don't really feel what your car is doing, and so you're left to solely rely on your visual cues, something that is not only unrealistic but also hard to do. Now there are countless of times during testing when I lost control in places where I never do, and that's only because I didn't get the cues from my wheel to make the adequate adjustments to keep myself on track. However, and worst of all, if you thought the in-game performance was already limited, the design of this actual wheelbase and its included table clamp certainly doesn't help either. You see, extremely large and bulky in design, the included table clamps got in my way and had my knee hitting against it countless of times. This not only made it uncomfortable, but also it just doesn't look good at all. And if that wasn't bad enough, the way they made this wheelbase causes the steering wheel to be angled as if you were driving a bus. Now I was able to mitigate this on my cockpit by adjusting my mounting plate, but for 99.9% of people who will use this on a desk, you're gonna have to make do with this problem. So overall, the PXN V9 Gen 2, despite some of my criticisms, could still play a role in the sim racing market. For actual children whom a force feedback wheel could pose a danger to, this could be a choice. For someone who just wants to extremely casually play a trucking sim, sure, this could be fine enough. And for someone who only wants to play arcade games like Mario Kart, I guess this would work. However, and what I think the big problem is that even if you fit into one of those descriptions, at its current $190 price tag, the PXN V9 Gen 2 is fighting a losing battle to some of PXN's very own products, Logitech and Thrustmaster offerings, and that's not even to mention the used market, where with half of that $190 you can find something better, as I demonstrated in this video. So in my opinion, the PXN V9 Gen 2 could be a solid offering for a very niche market if it was more competitively priced at around the $99 mark. But at its current state, even something like PXN's very own V99 has this beat by a mile for only a little bit more. So in my opinion, despite its flaws and limitations, I think there is an existing market who could find value in the V9 Gen 2, but it's up to PXN to market it accordingly. So this has been my full review on the PXN V9 Gen 2. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments, and as always, thank you all for watching, stay safe, and have a fantastic rest of your day.